Yeah. This size picture that you have here, this is pretty good. This is about the right size to use.
uh,
Okay? And what you're doing in the small
uh,
classroom here, of panning back and forth, you understand what I'm saying? Panning the camera back and
I
forth,
understand.
that's good too. That's okay.
Mm,
The only thing that could be better
mm,
is if
yeah.
you stop, like I stopped here on her. If you when you're panning over, don't just keep the camera moving all the time, but pan over to somebody, to one or two students,
Ah,
and then stop. You understand?
yes, I
Let me hear.
understand. Yeah.
Stop on one student and stay on them for about 30 seconds, just on one person,
Okay, okay,
and then go on
understand. Okay,
and get the next person.
Sweetheart.
Okay, so we could
Sweetheart.
stop for each of those, you know.
All that stretch that you just had, but a little bit faster.
stop.
Everybody,
Mm,
complains somewhat about tired muscles. You know how they have to work. You know how they have to work to make those big openings, and that's normal. You know, it's normal to hear them say, "Oh, I get a little tired," from stretching for those big openings, and especially for Asian
uh,
speakers, for your Vietnamese speakers, they are used to speaking.
ah.
Making big openings. If you listen carefully to the directions I give on the video, I mention always to yawn, to start with the feeling of a yawn. You have to pay
Mm,
attention carefully to all of those directions that I'm giving you on the video there. I'm giving you all the advice you need, but you've got to pay attention to everything, not just pick out parts of what you want to listen to. The
mm,
directions are all there. So you should always start practicing these stretch vowels with actual yawning and stretching. Oh, every session, every session, but especially these that deal with the stretch vowels. Start them with stretching like this. Oh.
oh, oh,
And now
oh,
feel that wide space between the shoulder blades. You can feel a wide space back here when you're stretching like that.
mm,
Oh, feel that wide space between the shoulder
mm,
blades. And look, when you start sessions like this, people will enjoy it. It will make them more relaxed. It will get their mind more focused. And everyone really enjoys this feeling anyhow of stretching. So it's great to just give them an opportunity every time, no matter what subject you're teaching, start with some stretching.
yeah. Okay,
Stretch,
teacher.
stretching and yawning, especially when you're teaching these stretch vowels, you can stop after one lesson and do stretching again. Do stretching and yawning again. Do stretching and yawning in
Uh,
between every every vowel that you're teaching. You may stop and do stretching and yawning 5 or 6 times just in the course of one session. Okay? And that's good. Believe me,
okay.
that's the way that it was taught to me. That's the way we learned it. So much constantly reminding for stretching and yawning because it's really a big aid to everything. The other thing you want to remind them of when you're doing these stretch vowels is to bring the sound forward. I think we've talked about that, right? Always bring the sound forward.
Forward. Ah, understand, teacher.
As I wrote to you in that email, you also have time when they're practicing through a section of the video. You can go out there with a small camera, like a phone camera, right? Again, the quality is not that important.
Yeah.
Just a little phone camera, something that you can use very quick, very easy, just one button, you know? And then you can go around and hold it up and take those pictures yourself. Sometimes it takes a little while for the students to get used to this, right? To have a camera that close to them. But pretty soon they'll just ignore it. It won't bother them. After you do it a few times, they just won't pay any attention to the camera.
Yeah, understand, teacher.
You know, even if someone is studying this system and they can barely speak English, it means that as they begin to study English somewhere else, they will be faster and better at it. It means that even the beginning English that they're starting to learn somewhere else, they're not going to be speaking it incorrectly because they've learned all the sounds from you.
Yeah, okay, understand, teacher. Okay.
That's why I always tell educators and teachers that it doesn't matter what level they're using this at. If they're very advanced, great. If they're advanced people, then they'll get, obviously advanced people will get more out of it because they already know the language well. But if they're beginners, that's good too, because, you know, then they have a good foundation. Then they're learning all the sounds correctly before they learn the language. So either way, you know.
Okay, I understand, teacher.
Do you want to go over with me something that you're going to be teaching this week? Because that's another way that we can work together. You know, if you teach me like you're going to teach your next lesson, then I can find ways to, you know, correct and make that better.
Okay, teacher. You mean that you mean that I will teach you the same way I teach for the student, that you can see my teaching and you can happy to improve my teaching.
It's kind of like, you know, you're practicing, rehearsing what you're going to teach, and that way, you know, that way I can show you ways to teach it better.
Okay, teacher. She's very interesting, teacher. I like that.
Something that is going to be your next lesson to teach, right? Or you know, something like that is your next lesson, and that way my advice will be very timely. It will be very effective because you'll remember it, and that way you'll have a chance to put what I'm teaching you right into practice.
Yeah, okay, teacher. I will prepare it.
For example, if it's what you're going to be teaching on Tuesday, you know, that's all the better, because that means just the next day after you work on it with me, you have a chance to bring all those ideas into your next session. You should be down on the floor, close to them. Down on the floor, close to them. Not all the time. I know sometimes you need to be at the head so everybody can see you, but if you think about it, it's really not that important that they be able to see you, right? It's not that important they be able to see you. They will hear your words even when you're down on the floor. And when you teach that group, I notice you use big gestures, right? You use big gestures with your arms, right? And that's good. That's good. You know that you need to make those big movements, right, when you're teaching a big group of 100. So again, you don't need to be up on stage all the time to do that. Let the video be the star teacher. Let the video be the main visual focus.
You explained to me when I'm teaching with many of people, a large group, many people, I don't need to stand on the front and teach them and show them the video, and I go to the people and guide for them and detail one by one, or let the video remain on their mind.
Yes. What it's good to do too is point to somebody who's doing it right and say, look at what Tron is doing. Look at what Tron is doing right now. Get that kind of stretch. Point to someone else who's doing it, who's a good example. So when you spend more time down on the floor, close to your students, then you have more of a relationship with them, and they'll really respect you for that.
Dạ.
And what I was saying is, like, show them somebody. Say, look at what she's doing. Look at how she's using the right mouth position right there, and that way you point to another student to be a good example, right? And that way, that student also gets positive reinforcement because you're pointing out how good they're doing.